Greetings and the best of salutations. That will be prayer, power, peace, prosperity, and patience. Welcome on behalf of the UB Blake National Jazz Institute Culture Center, Common Humanity Mission Inc. to the event gathering, marching forward in the midst of a pandemic, breaking barriers toward healing. This is the day that we gather, come together, and constructing, better yet, reconstructing the value, or reconstructing value. Doing so, we are promoting the value of self-worth for our common humanity, communicating with precision, a clearer image to the world. It is mandate that we cultivate the potential of that knowledge that is in us all as we become practitioners of social maturity, by concluding that resiliency is the author of success. One, we are tapping into and releasing and realigning ourselves with the value of that resiliency, with understanding, knowing that when you have balance, understanding speaks clearly, which will result in restoring social credibility. Two, we are and will be tapping into and releasing, realigning ourselves with the value of that resiliency, with tolerance, knowing the importance of capacity training, trainers, trainees. As a result, we will be addressing social diversity, because when inspiration comes down, one's aspiration goes up. Three, we are and will be tapping into and releasing and realigning ourselves with the value of that resiliency of temperance/temperament. As a result, we will be revising social coherence. Four, we are and will be tapping into and releasing and realigning ourselves with the value of that resiliency, with confidence. As a result, we'll be replenishing social continuity. And finally, we are and will be tapping into, releasing, and realigning ourselves with the value of that resiliency, with respect. As a result, we'll be reclaiming social solidarity. In addition, we hope that you will be informed, enlightened, inspired, encouraged, and empowered. Marching forward in the midst of a pandemic, breaking barriers while moving toward healing. The first presentation and presenter, Marcus Sankofa Nix. The theme, title was Healing Through History. Changing the narrative. Today, I will be talking about and dealing with Esteem bill. Esteem bill. Starts off by saying, plant seeds of truth, hope, success, and love. And as we do that, we will come back to you in abundance. This is the law of nature. In esteem building, it leads to self-esteem. We will deal with analytical behaviors in this presentation. We will deal with moving from victim to victorious. We will have a pyramid of esteem building. We will deal with talk therapy, as well as self-talk critic. Also, we will deal with what is called respect. This esteem building workshop is designed to plant seeds of truth, success, and love in the manner and way one communicate as a family, their humanity in the best of ways. And it will come back to you in abundance. Welcome, welcome to this presentation of Esteem Building Workshop. Common Humanity Mission. Our mission is to promote the value of self-worth. Our motto is to communicate with precision a clearer image to the world through 5.5 channels of communication: understanding, tolerance, temperament, confidence, and respect. Our mandate is to cultivate the potential of knowledge that is in us all. This is the DNA of common humanity. What this has to do with esteem building, it demonstrates that in your DNA, that you are perfect in your uniqueness. The social, cultural science. We are social human beings. And by us being social human beings, it means that we must learn in the best of ways to interact with one another as it pertains to esteem building that leads to one's self-esteem. We have the opportunity to express that appreciation. We communicate it, we cultivate it, we promote it. It becomes a industry. It is associated with an agriculture. When one has closeness to the ground or the fertility of the soil, that helps to develop and shape his or her attitude. And then we have the technology. So I say, that which we hold in common as we are perfected, or the perfection, or we are perfect in our uniqueness, that we have the opportunity to express that appreciation. We are communicators, we are promoters, we are industrialists, we are agriculturalists, technologists when it comes to the social and cultural science, the us being perfect in our uniqueness. Now we want to deal with the analyzing attitude behavior pattern, weigh in the balance. We all must know that we must come in the spirit of cooperation rather than the spirit of competition. Some would say, yeah, we should compete with one another, but in the best of ways. And the best of ways is to cooperate one with another. And we realize that unity is stronger than diversity, and oneness is stronger than conflict. As we move from victim to being victorious. Next, we're analyzing the attitude behavior patterns when it comes to this esteem building workshop that leads to self-esteem, weighed in the balance. But there is a scientific dictum which states that everything that exists in some amount, and if it exists, it can be measured. It can be measured. It is the coordinating. We must coordinate our efforts, our energy, our tasks, our time, and our nature. It is true that we do not recognize among ourselves our measurement of importance are generally faulty and speak mainly to the superficial realities of life. Generally, humans are ignorant. And what do I mean by that? It's that no one knows everything. The human experience is one of frailty. It's fragile, I should say. The human spirit is a fragile. But we also must come to realize too, that we must continue to learn to coordinate our efforts to offset as much as we can the fragileness or the frailty that we have. Because one may be stronger than the other. One may be a little weaker in certain areas than the other. But if we coordinate our energy, our time, our effort, our tasks, and our nature, we can help many of us to move from victim to being victorious. Analyzing the attitude, behavior patterns weighed in the balance. As an individual has not started living until he or she can rise above the narrow confines of his own individual concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity, all the broader concerns of others. As you see in the middle of that balance is resiliency. Resiliency is the author of success. Biologically, it can be proven based upon all those sperm cells. And you and I, or those who existed before us, they came out of that womb of darkness into a light. Resilient, he is the author of success. On the other side, one day this nation will rise above and live out the true meaning of its creed. With this faith, we'll be able to transform the jangling discord of our nation into a beautiful sympathy of brotherhood. This is the symmetry. This is these two statements were made by Dr. Martin Luther King. It is said that brother before he taught any religion, that he taught brotherhood. It is about how we treat and interact and behave with respect one with another. As you see here, the Esteem building pyramid knowledge. This Esteem pyramid knowledge is really designed to help you and I reflect and evaluating and integrating what we have learned. Now, what do I mean by what we have learned? It is said that the first 40 years of our life, after that, we are living what we have learned. If there is something that took place in between those 40 years to compensate and make up for those things in which we have done something that is in error, that has been done improperly or inappropriately, then we should be the better of it to compensate and accept the consequences of those actions. 2, this activity emphasized the importance and the role that reflection plays in the learning process. The pyramid, the Esteem building pyramid, provides learners with a framework for reflection, evaluating and integrating of new knowledge into previously learned material. The procedure reflect over what you have learned about the topic or any topic you have studied or are studying. This is an Esteem building workshop. Pyramid is empty, really. You put what you need to put in there when it comes to evaluating, reflecting, integrating what you have learned. The uses of this Esteem building pyramid of knowledge is also associated with the worksheet, right? Maybe the 3 most important things that you learn about a topic, and maybe the 3 most important things that you have learned about yourself. Then you go to another tier, and then you write down 2 questions, about the topic, or write down 2 questions about, about what you will want to learn and what you will want to, improve upon as it pertains to yourself. And finally, there's another tier that you write down and what you have learned and relates or connects to the previous material that you have studied, or that what you have found out about yourself. As you see at the bottom of the pyramid on the other side, it has an individual holding up individual. The individual is the sum total of the whole. If a person will never change if he or she does not see an issue with his or her action. And you see, it says purpose, prescription, description, policy, and procedure. Now, the purpose that we are here to reach our full potential. That's the purpose. But we are born in this society with potential. But we must become aware of that potential And once we become aware of that potential, we cultivate that potential. And once we cultivate that potential, it will put us in a position to excel and succeed, be successful in life. So there is a prescription. Then there is the description. And there is the policy. And the policy is driven by interest. And then there is the procedure, manner and way in which you go about doing things. Then there is the potential. And once you see the potential and you tap into it because you have become aware of it. Remember, we are born in a condition, placed in a situation, surrounded by circumstances, consequently is due to some previous activity that has taken place. Because when inspiration comes down, one's aspiration goes up. Awareness of your surroundings, circumstances makes us other than ourselves. So we must not allow anything or anyone to manipulate us to a point when it comes to our ignorance that will put us at odds with one another, that will put us at odds, that we start devaluing and underestimating and disrespecting ourselves. So as we become aware of that, we will rise above any given situation and circumstances, because the mind at its best is to be productive. The mind at its best is to be productive. And when there is ascension, you see at the top, there is success. But also what you see is union. You see the pyramid going up and you see the people going down. That is the union. Esteem building pyramid of knowledge. Now, the dynamics of marketing. When it talks about, when I'm dealing with esteem, this esteem building workshop that leads to self-esteem. Dynamics that is associated can be explosive, but we're talking about marketing. Remember, anything that you do from a business point of view, you have a DNA. Of course, you are perfect in your own uniqueness. We all are. Each blade of grass is different, of course. But you must market, be in the business of marketing when it comes to your esteem that leads to self-esteem, because if you are not marketing it, someone else is marketing it for you. So you must take control when it comes to esteem building that leads to self-esteem. Now, one of the ways that you do it, you visualize. Remember, there was a teacher that says, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that vision stems from the source of one's thinking. You visualize it. And then you conceptualize. It becomes the idea. The ancients say that humanity would be driven by ideas. And then you textualize it. Then it becomes a script. Something that is documented. You're writing it down. And then you contextualize it, which means you put it in a historical perspective, which means you look back over your life to where you were to where you are now, some of the things that you have improved upon when it comes to the development of your intellect or the betterment of your humanity, when it comes to building your esteem unto self-esteem. And then you actualize it. That means you are living it on a daily basis. when it comes to accepting of the facts. When you accept the facts, you don't suffer from cognitive dissonance, which means once you become aware of your potential and you cultivate that potential, you promote that potential, you communicate that potential, you visualize that potential, then I would jump to the actualization of that potential, which puts you in the position to succeed and excel in any life endeavors. And when it comes to even what is going on in our mind and our thinking that may not be in the most healthiest mode or healthiest mood. Control one's emotion and one's passion, and be resilient about what you want to do and how you want to go about doing. Lack of prejudice. Someone says prejudice is an attitude and discrimination is an act. Self-fulfillment is a satisfaction. Problem solving. This is what the dynamics of marketing, when you visualize it, conceptualize it, textualize it, contextualize it, actualize it. I'm talking about esteem building unto self-esteem. Problem solving. It is said that an optimist sees an opportunity in any difficulty, but a pessimist sees difficulty in an opportunity. You know, he sees it difficult. He sees it as something that is difficult rather than an opportunity. It's like a crisis. One could make you weak and the other can make you strong, because the problem is not the problem. The problem is the attitude that we have about the problem, the spontaneity, the creativity, and then the morality. Now, as we say that we are marching forward in the midst of this pandemic, breaking down barriers toward healing, the aim is accountability. You know, I think that's the challenge that associated. The lack of accountability is moral and cultural decline. Yes. Now, I don't know about the biological aspect of what is called a pandemic, but I know that the biological infection is affecting our social relationships. It is affecting our esteem and connection with our self-esteem. As you see the slide to my left, or possibly to your right, you see that the comfort that is given from one individual to the next of not knowing what's going on or not knowing what to do, and how it has affected his or her, you know, his mentality, his emotion, and how he socially engaged, not only with others, but how he socially engaged with the feelings that is going on inside of himself. But the sister is giving him comfort. And then we see on the other side, two people sitting at a table having a healthy exchange. Now, I'm not saying that the other one is not as healthy, but you see he has his head down and the other gentleman has it head up. But in the midst of it, is this virus. I like to say that many are suffering from an image invasion virus, but that's another ball game within itself. So, but we are marching forward, the spark to march forward in the midst of a pandemic. Moving forward is with regularity. What you do, uniformity, like a military, what you do on a daily basis. Once again, the aim is accountability. So it is a regimen that we must do on a daily basis. When it comes to accountability, it is a moral and ethical obligation to look out for each other as human beings in the best of ways. As you see on the brother that's grabbing the other brother with strength to pull him up, because it is his duty, his moral and ethical obligation to look out for his fellow human being in the best of ways. Now, I want to approach this spiritually, socially, morally, ethically, and linguistically. How so? Because anything that remains in its natural form, a natural state, is spiritual. It is a natural accountability that we have to look out one for another. It is a social responsibility when it comes to accountability and the manner and way in which we engage and interact one with another. Morally, social values, cultural values, ethics, what you do as an individual on a thoroughly basis, and linguistic accountability, because we need to be clear that the inner conversations that we have with ourselves create our circumstances. So therefore, the light goes off when it comes to esteem building unto self-esteem, the trust, the communication, the teamwork, the pride, the perfection, the excellence, the confidence, the commitment, the support, the leaderships, the values, the progress, the accountability, the quality, the courage, the integrity, the reliability, the simplicity, potential, the vision, and the progress. And one thing I realize about progress, it can be delayed, but it cannot be denied. And as Stevie Wonder would say, destiny is our brightest star. Linguistically, the word pandemic, it comes from the Greek word pan. If you notice that when you look at a movie, they pan in on something. They want to get your attention on something. So you pan in. I'm not like a Peter Pan. Peter Pan is a story of someone who refused to want to grow up. So we want to grow up. And as you see, the gentleman saying, well, here it is when it comes to the word pandemic. Demos, people or population. I don't want to necessarily get into the other explanation of the word demos, but a population, a pandemic of all people. The infection of the pandemic affects the results of one's reality. The biological infection, it really affects one's reality. And that's the truth, you know. For instance, some people, you know, they will stay away and don't want to engage because it affects their reality. People have different ways of dealing with it. And I don't like to use the word coping, but coping with what is going on in this, in the midst of this pandemic, and many other, for lack of words, variables come into play. Yes. Let us move on. So the word pandemic, one must move from a thing-orientated society to a people-orientated society. So it's about the orientation. The human person must be established. This is based on one's orientation, because before you go to school to get an education, orientation precedes education. You know, yeah, one must transform once again the jangling discord. You know, the discord or the discontent. You know, maybe the disharmony. You know what I'm saying? As it pertains to our feelings, our thoughts, our attitude, our communication, and our action. This pandemic affects people differently. The striking contrast due to demographics or otherwise, you know. In doing so, it can sow a seed of dissension. And in historical perspective, people start to, become very, I guess, paranoid. And when it comes to what has transpired historically, when it comes to, you know, vaccines and vaccinations, and that's out of uh, my territory, out of my league to discuss that. But people just deal with it differently. Yes, the next slide, the word pandemic again. And once again, people must continue to move from a thing-orientated society to a people-orientated society. Okay, the word epidemic or pandemic or EPR means upon an epidemic. It is visited upon people. En means an epidemic, a visitor, a person visiting a place, especially spiritually, socially, morally, ethically, linguistically, or a tourist. You know what I'm saying? A company or a guest. I think that we need to distinguish between attachment versus, connection, because the source of all conflict is attachment. Some things we just have to, let it go. But where there is no connection, there is no growth. Now, it is interesting when it comes to your esteem, because I said again, our inner conversation that we have with ourselves create our circumstances, and circumstances makes us other than ourselves. This is the social health model. Anything that I try to do is based on the social health model. And as we see in the middle of it all, talks about one's healthy motivation. So when it comes to esteem building in connection with self-esteem, we want to have a healthy motivation. We want to have a healthy attitude, a healthy perception and perspective about ourselves. It is the task, it is our effort, our time, our energy, and our nature, because everything that we perceive as a reality is not a reality. It is a reality that has been given to us, because a lot of times we deal with an imaginary hurt, because the past is just a reference point, but it's not a place of residence. So we got to understand the advantages and disadvantages. And then we deal with the perceived severity of any hurt or any pain or any injury, because people are only responding due to the extent and the damage and the injury that has been done to his or her humanity. Then we deal with the perceived benefits. We do a cost benefit of analysis, and we deal with open-mindedness, then there are closed-minded, and then there is narrow-mindedness, then there is perceived barriers. So we want to break generational barriers or imaginary barriers that we may put up ourselves that may not even be there. We're just putting them there based upon past experiences. So we want to do our best to move forward, but we do not want to be very naive of the fact and knowing that what is transpiring affects our social interaction. It affects us emotionally. It affects us psychologically. It affects our relationship, you know what I'm saying? And it affects the way that we think. It affects the way that we behave. So let us be clear that we want to have a healthy motivation, rational thinking, and not to be irrational, you see. Because when one is irrational, he or she does not know how to reason, nor as he or she has not learned to be able to make the proper choices and decisions that he or she needs to make. And the next presenter after me, Lenny Lewis, will talk about choices and decisions. Now we see the end result of anything is in the restoration of restoring credibility. Because when you're building on your your esteem unto self-esteem, you see here that it is you see here what it's doing is restoring one's credibility. And then the second is readdressing social diversity, moving from a persecuted minority to a privileged majority. Because when inspiration comes down, one's aspiration goes up. And then you deal with revising social coherency. It becomes more coherent, you know. This is healthy motivation. And then replenish one's continuity, you know, of one's confidence in cooperating with one another. And then it resulting in reclaiming social solidarity. So we see the aspect of wellness: social, physical, environment, occupation, spiritual, intellectual, emotional. Now, let's deal with the occupational, because that which occupies the mind, conditions the mind, that's the nature of the mind. Intellectual, we must use that which is required of us, is our intelligence. We must best control our emotion. We realize that planet Earth is a sociological structure. There is inclusion and there is exclusion. For example, a wolf, you know, does not interact, you know, with a sheep. You know, it's not, you know, that's not in its interest. I mean, the interest of the sheep to interact with the wolf. Then we deal with environmental concerns, you know, and then we deal with the spiritual. Where are you in your spiritual growth and development? Esteem building. Speak to others as you would have them speak to you. The same as treat people how you want to be treated. Yes, me is an objective term, and that objective is something that comes from one's heart and is in your hands. Talk therapy. Trust, honesty, relationship, ethics, competence, value system, sincerity, reliability, commitment. What is esteem? What is self-esteem? Self-esteem is the key to effective communication. What is self-talk? Stop the talk critic. Now we're getting into it. Talk therapy. So let's talk therapy. Talk therapy is about how stuff either affects the results, behavior, your feelings, your thoughts, your attitude, the language, activity, spiritual, social, emotional, ethically, otherwise. Talk therapy is psychotherapy, which is what mental health professionals use to communicate with their patients. The purpose of talk therapy is to help people identify issues that cause emotional distress. I always like the word patient with patient. And when you have patient, you gain confidence as you see the two are sitting and talking. What is esteem? Webster defined esteem as the regard in which one is held especially in high regard, the esteem we all feel for her, an individual worth, value, respect, and admiration one for another. It is widely held that an individual must earn another person's respect. How do you determine an individual's worth or value when you have never met them? Now we have entered the realm of opinion and judgment, which are usually based on life experiences. Now we have entered the realm of opinion and judgment, which are typically based on our life experiences. I had to say that twice. The only thing our opinion or judgment can be based on is what we see first. When we meet an individual for the first time, their appearance, their skin color, their hair, and their clothing. If we hold any prejudice for the appearance above our respect for the individual is compromised. Now, as we see here, who deserves your respect? And we know The answer is everyone. Everyone deserves respect. Now, what is self-esteem? Self-esteem is the judgment or opinion we hold about ourselves. It is the extent to which we perceive ourselves to be worthwhile and capable of human beings. Look at the slide. Look at the strength, how they just illustrating, as something that deals with something that is muscular, or physical strength. But I say mental and emotional strength is just as important. How would your life be different if you stop allowing other people to dilute or poison you daily with their words or opinions? Let today be the day you stand strong in the truth of your beauty and journey through your day without attachment to the validation of others. Well, I have to use Dr. Joy DeGuru book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by the Healing, even though I messed all the words up. But she talks about vacant esteem. Now, I always say there would be no need for vacant esteem if we hold each other in high esteem. She says in her book, if we are to heal, one step we must take to ensure we build our self-esteem as well as self-esteem of our children. For many, this will be no easy task, for our esteem has been buffeted by the storms of, talking specifically to African Americans, of slavery and oppression. Now, you can flip that, and it could be applied to anyone who has been, misused, abused, and misguided, and to think more highly of themselves than they ought to. But she goes on to say, the two of our greatest strengths, by the way, is perseverance and patience. She says esteem means worth and value. Always say that I promote the value of self-worth. It is in degree, but not in the value. The value is unlimited. He said, here is the question that is at the core of our esteem. Are you destroying or creating? She said, this is the essence of esteem. Have you discovered your unique gift and shared it with others? Do things get worse or do they improve around you? Are others' lives poorer or richer because you are alive? Do you make the world a better place? When people leave your company, do they feel better than before you arrive? These are some of the signs of value. Do you provide for your children today? Did you go to work at your job? Did you try to, create opportunities for yourself? Did you do the best you could to do in school? These are some of the most important questions, she says, that we, ask ourselves. Then she goes on to say about self-esteem. It was the second building block. The first building block I seem to have overlooked, but this building block here, she says that self-esteem, awareness of, are we aware, I'm paraphrasing, of the value that we produce? Are we aware of the value we produce? I think that's very key and very important, that we must become aware of the value that we produce. And that also plays a part on sacrifice, because Esteem is associated with an estimation. And the estimation is the sacrifice that one makes for his or her family, his children. They count the cross. I mean, they count the cost. You see, because they want their children to have, to be better. Not in a way that they are, misusing their time, their energy, their skills, and the resources, and the investment that the parents had put in through their toil and labor. So, but there is an example that is set, that they count the cost, that they value what they have produced, and that's what we need to be clear about, that there is an investment in one another, that there is an investment in your esteem that connects with your self-esteem, because without connection, there is no growth. So there is an investment that takes place when it comes to what has been produced, and we must value what has been produced in us. Self-esteem is the key to effective communication. Must communicate from a place of respect. Your communication style can alter the way people perceive you, either increasing or decreasing your opportunities for employment, romance, and friends. People with high self-esteem tend to have better communication skills. People with low self-esteem may struggle with communication, making it difficult for them to develop strong relationships and further lowering their self-esteem. Remember, your self-esteem, it creates opportunities of employment for you, which means in the manner in which you apply yourself. Now, here's a form of communication, as you see, assertive communication. They are in a meeting. They assert themselves. Assertive communication is the ability to clearly express your needs in the way that is neither excessively aggressive nor unduly conciliatory. Assertive people have better luck negotiating job terms, communicating needs to their partners, and managing conflict. Yes. However, low self-esteem can undermine assertive communication. This can cause people who already struggle with their self-esteem to get fewer needs met, potentially lowering their self-esteem. Extroversion. People tend to have a higher self-esteem. Extroversion can make it easier for people to approach strangers, talk in large crowds, and appear friendly. And they can appear friendly. Don't mean that they always are friendly. So that's a tricky one right there. This causes others to perceive extroverts more positively. And that's the way we need to, perceive ourselves in a more positive manner, and as the potentially furthering, bolstering our esteem. You know what I'm saying? Counting the cost. You know what I'm saying? The estimation, the sacrifice. Remember, truth cannot be sacrificed to any interest. Only interest can be sacrificed. Truth is the cause that impacts the impacts and affects the results of one's reality. Okay, now, further boasting one's self-esteem. People with low self-esteem may be anxious about talking to unfamiliar people and more uncomfortable in groups. So that's why it's important too of group therapy. Now we deal with internet communication. Most people nowadays, social media, are on the internet. Yes, they are on the internet, and sometimes the internet can get the best of you. Due to the fact that you are on there, and you see what other deal with social comparison. People can be on there showing how successful that they are and all the likes that they may be getting. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it can really get the best of some people. As even some students, they are challenged with the internet. If they see other students and what they are doing and how much fun they may be having, and I just say students because people are, they go to school, they learn, but I could say children, but I say students because we're all students of this universe. But this internet communication is increasingly important part of the work and social life. People with low self-esteem are more likely to misrepresent themselves online. Some people with low self-esteem use the internet as a way to compensate. These people may try to become popular online, which means the internet can help serve as an alternative communication channel for people who struggle with in-person communication. I say that sometimes the internet is diminishing our social acting skill, interaction skills. As you see the images, one sister is crying, tears, the other one is in contemplation. The other one is, she's thinking, and the other is looking as a sense into space, into space. Does not mean that that's the case, but it looks like that he's in the space. Well, we say this type of self-esteem building can be harmful as it depends on the validation of others. So we don't need anyone to validate us. And you can see that in all honesty, some people on there, they may get more likes than you know what I'm saying? They may have more followers than you, than the next person. And sometimes that could, get to people with low self-esteem. It really can. So stop the self-talk critic. People with depression and anxiety frequently experience destructive and dysfunctional self-talk. The inner chatter that they hear may be, that they hear, it could overwhelm them, negative, and that we start to wallow in a painful manner in a painful way, and to a point that we, want to, start to give up. There are students once again who are used to interacting with their students in school, and during this pandemic, some have to, learn at home. And there was one student who was challenged by that, along with many others, that they learn better with conversation, personal interactions with other students rather than the interaction on the internet. So there is an adjustment. That's why we say we're marching forward in the midst of the pandemic, breaking down barriers to our healing. So we continue to move forward. Yes. So we must empower, engage, enable, and enhance. Stop the self-talk critic. Talk therapy. What we've been doing to this point is talking therapy, as we, help each and every one of us identify with issues that cause emotional distress. Stress, anxiety, confusion, fear, and worry. Cognitive. In the social health model that I displayed, it deals with temperance/temperament. And the temperance is self-control, and the temperament is the attitude. When it comes to social stress leads to mental pain, and mental pain leads to physical harm, anxiety, confusion, fear, worry, because there's a lot of people that are stressed during this pandemic. They are in isolation. They're spending more time and forced to spend more time with self, and with their people whom they are, with whom they live with. But is it for me to say that you can live with a person but really don't know the person whom you're living with? You think about that yourself. Then it deals with the anxiety. Yes. And become very confusing. Like people may not know what's going on, but like I said, the biological infection of the pandemic is affecting people, is stressing them out. They having anxiety attacks. Some may convert to their old habits and their old ways of toxins that get the best of their thoughts and their feelings, you know what I'm saying? And there are stories that we may not even have heard of as of yet, of how this biological infection of affecting people, esteem building unto his or her self-esteem, this confusion, fear, people who have tested with this thing in their mind in a way, and people are fearful. People are fearful even coming in contact, wanting to, not, wanting coming in contact and contracting it, if I may use that word. So there was worry, man. There was worry, man. And even in our dialogical behavior, in the manner in which we dialogue one with another, with the manner way, if someone may even cough or something, we may rise up, you know what I'm saying? Someone may not be wearing a mask, and then we get in a dialogue, an unhealthy dialogue with them, and then that could lead to something that is physical. In our interpersonal relationships, it affects our interpersonal relationship when it comes to emotional distress, family behavior, emotional stress, how family are interacting with one another, stressing family out as well, because someone may have it in the family member may not be able to go out and see the person and reach them or touch them, because everybody needs that touch. You know what I'm saying? The barriers, we want to break the barriers, of this toward healing, and the aim is accountability, and the ultimate aim is to come into complete civility, and for that you should be at peace. Then the individual behavior, social stress as well, and confusion, fear, and worry. Yes, the social health model, the task is in the understanding through the filtering of healthy motivation, resulting in restoring social credibility. When it comes to feeling susceptible, feeling vulnerable, there are advantages and disadvantages. The effort is in the tolerance, the capacity to be able to, to withstand, the heat or the pressure in the midst of this pandemic. That result in readdressing social diversity, because when inspiration comes down, once aspiration goes up, then the perceived severity, when it comes to this infection and how it affects one's social life as it pertains to one's esteem in connection with one's self-esteem. We want to revise social coherency so one can be cognitive, be very clear, and have the control, the temperance, the discipline that he or she needs in his or her attitude as it pertains to how he or she feels about him or herself during this pandemic, as it is called. Then the energy that we put in, and we don't want to continue to be depleted. We always want to be replenished. We want to, deal with the open-minded, not as closed-minded and not narrow-minded, because there are, we must see some benefits in us coming together, as a family, as a result of, as we continue to, march forward, marching forward in the midst of the pandemic, breaking down barriers, toward healing. There are benefits and how we learn how each and every person deal with it. We are not in a position to make a mockery of one or how a person is dealing with this or her, dealing with this pandemic or that which is going on, that's affecting people globally. But we are learning from it. We need to learn from it. Not only the science of it, the social aspect of it, the spiritual aspect of it. We can learn from it. That we realize that if we can heal from it, is that we realize that the healing is an accountability, yes, unto coming into complete civility. Be very civil as a citizen, as a global citizen of this farm called the universe. Yes. And as we replenish the social continuity, the flow, as it pertains to our accomplishments and our limitations, as well as our failures. Some would call it a day of reckoning, but it's another ball game within itself. Then the nature, these perceived barriers that may not be there, and we want to, reclaim social solidarity, because when you have respect, when it comes to your esteem building, unto self-esteem, when you have respect, self-respect, as Dr. Francis Wells said, people that don't respect themselves won't protect themselves. When you have respect, anything that comes at you will proceed coming at you with caution. And the first sign is cautionary sign. I'm gonna leave you with this. We must learn and improve and recognize upon what you are good at, And two, we must build positive relationships. And three, we must be assertive, Four, we must be kind to ourselves. Five, start saying no. Let your no be no, let your yes be yes. And six, give yourself a challenge. 7, stay away from negative people. They have a problem for every solution. 8, healing a person will not necessarily change the world, but it can change the world for that person. 9, healing does not mean that the damage never existed. It means that the damage do not control you. 10, people will more than likely won't change if they don't see an issue with their action. And 11, the messenger can only deliver the message to those who are at a vibrational match to the message. So don't stress yourself out saying things to people who can't or refuse to hear or listen to the message. I want to thank you for tuning in to this Esteem building workshop unto self-esteem, building one's self-esteem. Marching forward in the midst of a pandemic, breaking barriers while moving toward healing. Next week at 7 p.m., Wednesday, that's the 31st, will be Denny Lewis, and his topic will be choices versus decision. We will do this all the way up to May 19th. And the next speaker after that will be Paul Thompson on a Wednesday. After that will be Will Murray. After that will be Dennis Saw Winkler. After that will be Amir Muhammad. After that would be Baba Saw Winkler. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Zoom event. Marching forward in the midst of a pandemic, breaking barriers while moving toward healing. Working together to make a difference in the lives of others. Until next time, talk to you.